Hello everyone, welcome to the Epic Flight Academy. Our topic today is airspace. My name is Mike Thompson and this is the Private Pilot Ground School. Now, when you study this course, remember there are three parts. You must be focused in the online course. Number two, this video parallels that course. And number three, you must review this material with your flight instructor one-on-one individually. So let's get started with airspace. We had talked in a previous video about looking up into the sky and wondering, hey, I can just fly anywhere and do anything. Well, the FAA has divided our airspace up into specific areas defined by altitude and mileage. When we talk about airspace, you're going to have three primary references to help you study this. Your Jeppesen textbook, the PHAK, that's the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, and the AIM Chapter 3, that's the Aeronautical Information Manual Chapter 3. And that's what we're referencing when we talk about this material. So how do we make sense about all the complexities of airspace? Well, my answer is let's go to the AIM, the Aeronautical Information Manual, Chapter 3, and let's see how the AIM makes sense of it. The AIM divides airspace up into controlled, uncontrolled, and special use. So right now in this video, we're going to take a look at the first three types of controlled airspace. Now, airspace is referred to by letters of the alphabet. And we use A through G, alpha through golf. So let's take them in order. This diagram is an excellent depiction of all of those lettered airspaces. So let's start with A. Now notice up across the top of this diagram, alpha airspace or Class A airspace. Now you notice I said this was defined vertically and horizontally. Alpha airspace is defined vertically as beginning at 18,000 MSL, that's 18,000 feet above mean sea level, and up to and including flight level 600, that is 60,000 feet. So, what's above alpha airspace and how high does airspace go? Well, currently, there is no international agreement on the vertical dimension of any individual country's airspace. So above alpha airspace right now is Class Echo airspace, which we'll talk about in another video. So alpha airspace, vertically, 18,000 feet to 60,000 feet. To fly in alpha airspace, a pilot and the aircraft must be on an IFR flight plan. The pilot must be instrument rated and has to have a Mode C transponder with altitude encoding ability and ADS-B broadcast in and out. At 18,000 feet, altimeters are set to 29.92 inches of mercury, so all aircraft in alpha airspace have the same pressure reference, so when they talk about altitude. The next type of airspace is what we call Class B or Bravo airspace. Now, when you think B for Bravo, think big planes, B for big. Big planes, big airports. Bravo airspace is at our country's largest and busiest airports. In Florida, we think about Orlando, Miami, Tampa. As we move north, we have airports like Atlanta, New York, Washington, Chicago. Okay, the big, busy airports. So that's Bravo, big and busy. Now, when I was a student pilot, And I was still dreaming about getting married to a beautiful woman. And I was thinking, hey, what's our wedding cake going to look like? And my flight instructor said, hey, pay attention. Quit dreaming about your girlfriend. Let's get back to airspace. Bravo airspace is like a big upside down wedding cake. And I said, yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Well, guess what? That description of Bravo airspace actually still works pretty good. If you could imagine a layered wedding cake and then take and flip it upside down, that is very close to what Bravo airspace looks like. And in this diagram, you can kind of see it three-dimensionally there. This is showing the blue lines on the surface of the chart and that three-dimensional blue airspace going up into the sky. So remember, we're starting with this upside down wedding cake, but as you look at Bravo airspace on a lot of these charts, you're going to see that there's been a lot of, well, you know, slices cut off or pieces taken out or adjustments made. It's like somebody came along at your wedding and had a piece of cake. The FAA says, look, we might make slight adjustments to altitudes in the shape of Bravo airspace, depending on the needs of traffic and traffic flow. Bravo airspace runs vertically to 10,000 feet MSL, from the surface to 10,000. The inner ring is at the surface, and the outer rings are moving up in altitude. They are individually tailored for that airport's requirements, and there is always an outer veil with a 30 nautical mile ring, and that is referred to as the Mode C veil. So you see, we've got kind of a wedding theme going here. We got wedding cakes and veils. That 30 nautical mile veil says if you are going to fly inside of that 30 nautical mile veil, you must have a Mode C transponder. Okay, so that's kind of the dimensions of it. Requirements for alpha airspace. The first requirement is that you must be talking to air traffic control and you must be cleared to enter. You cannot just be talking to them on the frequency, you must be specifically cleared to enter. So two-way radio contact, Mode C transponder with automatic altitude reporting capability, and ADS-B in and out. Another requirement is pilot certificate. You must have a minimum of a private pilot certificate to fly into Class Bravo airspace. Now, there are exceptions where a flight instructor might be able to endorse a student pilot to fly into a specific Bravo airspace. We'll talk about that later. Generally speaking, one must hold a private pilot certificate to fly into Bravo. Another requirement is below 10,000 feet, an aircraft speed must be slowed to 250 knots or less. And if I am flying underneath of one of those layered shelves of this wedding cake, my speed is restricted to 200 knots. Okay, and then thirdly, weather minimums. The weather minimums in Bravo airspace are 3 statute miles of visibility and clear of clouds, unless, of course, I'm flying on an IFR flight plan. So we have dimensions, we have requirements, we have weather minimums. So we've talked about alpha airspace, and we've talked about Bravo airspace. The next type of airspace you can see here on our chart. It's depicted on our chart here in kind of a light green, but on the actual sectional chart, it's depicted with magenta circles. So in this three-dimensional chart, you see how it looks more kind of pinkish. The Charlie airspace, I want you to think of communication. And the reason we say that is, like Bravo Airspace, you have to be communicating with ATC. But unlike Bravo Airspace, you don't have to be specifically cleared into Charlie Airspace, but what you do have to have is ATC referring to you by your call sign. And that's what we mean by Charlie Airspace communications. That's our memory aid. Now, let's go through our dimensions, requirements, and weather minimums. Dimensions of Charlie Airspace. Well, who likes tuna fish? I don't know, I love tuna fish. This is a tuna fish can set on top of a soup can, sort of. The inner circle has a 5 nautical mile radius and goes from the surface up to 4,000 feet. The outer circle, that's my tuna fish can, has a 10 nautical mile radius and goes from 1,200 feet up to 4,000 feet. Okay? So you want to be able to find some of this Class C airspace on your sectional chart, and again, review this with your flight instructor. So that's dimensions. How about requirements? Requirements to fly into Charlie Airspace. Two-way radio communication. Remember, we just talked about that. They have to refer to you by your call sign. And Mode C transponder with automatic altitude reporting and ADS-B in or out. The aircraft call sign must be used by ATC or you may not enter. Aircraft speed limited to 200 knots. Within 4 nautical miles of the airport at or below 2,500 feet. Weather minimums. For weather minimums, we think 3, 152. 3, statute miles. 1 means 1,000 feet above any cloud. 5 means 500 feet below any clouds. And 2 means 2,000 feet horizontal separation from any cloud. So, in a recap, we divide airspace into controlled, uncontrolled, and special use. In controlled airspace, we've just discussed Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie airspace. So here is a quick review question for you. Up to what altitude does Bravo airspace extend? From the surface, up to what altitude for Bravo airspace? Well, folks, that wraps up this video. Join us next time.